Strategic Hotbox with Dr. Brandi Stankovic. Discussing leadership, business, and how to take control of your life and achieve greatness. From the streets of Las Vegas, energized, informed, and never diluted. It's time to kick some ass.
Hey, it's your girl, Dr. Brandi Stankovic here on the Strategic Hotbox. And today we're going to talk to my girl, Nova Scott, and talk a little bit about fashion and purpose and soul. And I can't wait to get a few tips in fashion in general. And so we're going to hear it right from the experts. Let's get started. When it comes to Strategic Hotbox, we learn, we love, and we kick ass. For those of you that have been around with us, you know that. It's deep inside of you. And I love being able to chat with different leaders, people in all sorts of different industries, and understand what feeds them and what gives them the passion that they have to drive towards their goals, to drive towards success, and how they can share some of that with all of us and what we can do, each of us, to execute on those things today. And that's why the kick-ass portion is so important. So today it's about fashion, and I love this topic. We haven't been able to dig into this topic here on the Hotbox before. And fashion really is an art form from my perspective. Which means, though, then it is also subjective. So, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And because of that, each of us thinks something is a little bit more exciting. But it also allows for us to have an additional form of self-expression. And it allows for some beauty in diversity. What I love about fashion, though, is there's also some psychology in it. Often when we dress well or we dress up, or even though when we see people that leave the hairdresser and they're, or after the pandemic was finally done, when everybody got to get a haircut that they didn't have for like months, everybody's going to feel like the fresh cut look. And we love those moments of that. It's a mood booster after all. There's also psychology in feeling more fierce. As a matter of fact, there are studies that when physicians when they wear their white coat, when they wear their uniform, for lack of a better term, they're more careful, rigorous, pay more close attention to what is at hand. It doesn't matter if they're actually practicing medicine, if they're doing a presentation or doing something else. There's some power in the uniform. There's also studies that show about confidence boosting that occurs with certain clothes, that if we're wearing formal clothes, we might sit up a little bit more straight. And I think that's definitely true when I put my children in nicer clothes, at least for a solid 5 minutes. They'll sit still or feel handsome and feel a little bit more powerful in that. There's also the psychology, if you think about it, with uniforms. And that's an interesting one when we're speaking about kids and schools that have uniforms. So there's less self-expression in that way, but it also allows for a bit more formality or people conforming to the rules of the school, to the policies, to the mechanisms that are built in, and uniforms are an additional way to do that. So it kind of levels the playing field in a sense of all different diversities of being able to purchase clothing, being able to express, but then also conforming to the rules of the school. I also think that fashion impacts our personal brand. And we've talked about personal brand here in the Hotbox, and I've given you potentially the concept of dress to forget, where I don't want you remembering what it is that I'm wearing, because then you weren't paying attention to this amazingness that's coming out of my mouth, right? That I have the philosophy of dress to forget, where I don't want to be remembered for my clothing. However, clothing is still important to me. And I think that sometimes might be lost, that it is an expression of who I am. It is an opportunity to make sure that I'm amongst the group that I am, that I feel like I'm fitting in, that I'm a little bit overdressed versus ever underdressed. All of those pieces play into the choices that I make. And naturally, of course, they're all black, right? I mean, I just happen to love this color. And so I think that an organization, a human being, different people and the policies they create around fashion that should think about all those different components. And then, of course, there's value systems and standards and religions that impact different parts of fashion as well. And that's one of the beautiful parts about traveling the world and being able to see some cultural differences that come through fashion. There's so many different facets, but I think that we should really just get the expert in here to talk to us a little bit about what it means to leaders. And so I have Nova Scott here with us today. She's a fashion designer and a fellow woman out to conquer the world. And she has her degree in broadcast journalism, and she's from Jamaica, and she's a fashion designer, as I mentioned, of course, and a wife and mother of 3 beautiful children. And so please join me in welcoming Nova Scott. Hello, Nova. How are you?
everybody.
I'm
Awesome.
I'm so excited that you're here, and your blouse or dress that you have on is so much more expressive than the one that I'm wearing today. I love it.
Yes, I'm happy to be on.
Well,
Happy to be a part of the show today.
well, thank you very much. Tell us about you. What led you into fashion?
Well, for me, it was like if you track back to 5 years ago, I was home with my 6-month-old son at the time. At that time, I had 3 children, and so but the youngest was 6 months at the time, and so after a while, I was like, okay, I'm a mother. That's cool, and I'm home with my children. I'm raising them. I'm teaching them all before they hit kindergarten.
Mhm.
And so, because we never did daycare or anything like that. And so, it was at that point I said to myself, like I want to be able to contribute to society in a way that makes impact. And I started brainstorming. Okay, what is it that I can do that creates impact that I'm also passionate about?
Mm.
Because sometimes you can make impact, but you're not passionate, which then doesn't sustain you when things get hard.
Mhm.
And so that's how it all began. As when my youngest, who's now 5, was 6 months old, I was just getting, that itch you get sometimes as a mom when you're just inside, the 4 walls are crushing in, and you're like, I need to do more. And what is it that I'm passionate about? And fashion happens to be a way that I feel like, okay, I can affect and infect culture and people. So
I
yeah.
love that. I think any mom that's listening today can relate to that feeling of, even if it isn't doing more, it's about redefining what it is that we're contributing, right? And finding that new purpose and value after having children, while also trying to feel like a chick at the same time, right? It's so true. And why are clothes important then to leaders and to leadership?
Well, because I believe that how you show up matters, right? And so no matter the environment. And so, for instance, because with the whole psychology behind clothing, a lot of times you can paint a picture before people even hear a word out of your mouth. They can look and they define. And I mean, that's just the way that the world structures are set up, that people, before you even open your mouth, before they get to know you personally, they size you up based on how you present yourself, or they can just draw a conclusion. Mm-hmm. So I believe that, how you present yourself, you can paint a awesome picture, whether it's, I'm not just talking about 3-piece suits or, a fabulous ballroom gown, but it's just how you show up and also how you put yourself together. It creates confidence in you, so you're able to walk more with your shoulders rounded, and you walk more confidently into any room. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you can just take charge. So that's just what I feel about how we present ourselves, or how vice versa, how people perceive you and then how you perceive yourself, because there is a confidence that comes when you put some type of time and energy into how you present yourself to the world. So,
and is it different between men and women?
Yeah, because I mean, think about it. When you are in your home, right? And let's say, because I'm married, and so, for instance, husband, he may come down before and be ready before I am. I may take that extra time because, like, okay, we have more things that we focus on, like hair, we have nails, we have, makeup, all the different things that come together as a full package. So I believe how men even present themselves, because some men, I see them, they rock their perfect little T-shirts and jeans and show up and they look great, and nobody looks and says, hey, but now a woman in a T-shirt and jeans, sometimes a person's like, wait, what do they do? So it's like a different, I think there's different mindsets that come and perceptions that come when men show up and then when women show up, like how we present ourselves.
And you brought up a few really important points there that I want to note. First is I think it's always easier for a man to pack for professional events, because I'll talk to different groups when I'm leading a session. They'll say, well, what's the dress code? And I'm like, it's suit and tie. What is it for a female? Well, business, whatever that means, whatever that looks like, however you define that. And it's just it's different. It is different for sure. The second piece of it is the whole idea of what it takes to get, what the expectation is, or what it takes to get to a certain place or point of looking presentable.
Exactly. I mean, for me, because I'm more into like the natural look, for instance. So I don't even own a bottle of foundation, right? And so for me, I'll just throw on some eyeshadow, eyeliner, lipstick, but I think there's some essential things as far as like throwing some water on your face, washing your face, taking time to wash your hair, taking time to take a nice shower, so that you just feel something about as you take care of yourself, it does something for you psychologically. Because I think about, when I just had one of my kids, and how when I wasn't able to really take that time, to take care of myself, when I wasn't able to take the showers, the longer showers, and we know when you have a newborn, it's like time's a ticking. All right, get out that shower right now, kind of thing. So there is something that happens. And you can tell the difference of like before I was a mother versus when I became a mother, and how you feel, and the fact that, man, like taking a shower and washing my face and putting on a pair of my favorite jeans and a nice shirt, I felt great after having a child. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It just made me feel like, a breath of fresh air, I think.
Yeah, no, yeah. Once you become a mom, you don't even get to pee alone again. That is not a thing. But you're right. And it's different for every person. I mean, some people put much more effort and time into the way that they look and how they present, and other people don't. And whatever scale they are on, it just being able to be more conscious and intentional about those efforts are so important. And you use fashion psychology, of course, as you create designs. How do you envision a final piece to create based on the psychology that you want?
Okay, so for me, for instance, the small line that I have right now that's coming out, or that is out, basically, and available for order, I create pieces with color in mind. And so for me, I know that there are certain colors that exude a certain message. For instance, bright colors, greens and reds and different shades of blue, right? It creates a picture in somebody's mind, so like, I'm just going to say this. So a person who's listening right now, if you see a woman wearing a bright yellow dress, what comes to mind? You know what I mean? And so for me, I create, number one, with the end in mind first. I envision it first. Then I sketch it out. And then as I'm envisioning, I'm like, okay, what do I want each woman or each person to feel when they have this outfit on? What is a picture I want to paint? And so from there I build it. Then I go looking for fabrics and how the fabric feels. And so, because I know once you mix colors and fabrics with the full design, it just creates like a big explosion of like fabulousness, So that's how I build it. I build it from my mind first, and I start to think, okay, what do I want the person to feel like when they're in it? So if I want a more relaxed, casual kind of feel, what are the colors? What are the more neutral tones? If somebody's in their home, and they're just relaxing, you don't want to overdo it with the color, because maybe you need like more like the grays and the new tones, earth tones and things like that. So that's how I build it.
And does your line include a diversity in those feelings and emotions, the psychology at the end, or do you have particulars that you specialize in?
Well, right now, currently, it's ready to wear, so it's more of the type of line that I have right now, because there will be different lines, but this one in particular is for the bold, beautiful woman. And then also the pieces, each piece that I created, they're named after a woman in history who has done something to invest in the community or to help the overall community. And so you'll have like a piece that has, one is called Maya, the Maya piece, which is named after Maya Angelou. You have one that looks more like it has like a suit type of, a woman's blazer type of dress that's named after Susan B. Anthony, because she used her mouth and she spoke up, on behalf of those who couldn't really speak up, And so what I did was the picture I painted was, okay, she was more into like justice. And so I was like, okay, what would a lawyer wear? And so I created that piece to kind of match that. And then there's another one, it's called the Rosa dress in connection with Rosa Parks, and it's bold red. It's a bold red color because she was bold by sitting on the bus and not moving, like to fight for other people's rights, So from that, it all intertwines, I guess. But this one is more for bold women. So it's about the bold woman, if that answers the question.
Absolutely. And I got chills there in listening to your descriptions of that. I love that idea of naming it after people that have made a difference in the world and the communities. And it also makes a statement of what the outfit itself is portraying, and creating a bold, having a woman to have confidence and some boldness in it is just beautiful. I love that. So you created the company with purpose, of course, in mind. How did you build that into everything that you're doing? And I think the example of the names is a perfect example of that.
Well, because when I first started, I think anytime we do anything or build anything, you must start with purpose. You must start with vision before you build. And so I initially started with the vision of, okay, restore dignity to women through clothing. And from there, I said, okay, what are some things that I can do? What can I use clothing to do other than, the typical clothing brand where we focus on, okay, I'm cute, oh, look at this dress. But how can I use clothing as a tool and a resource to help, restore and to rebuild the lives of women who are maybe going through a hard time, maybe through sex trafficking, maybe they've experienced like a rough life and they're escaping from that, and now they may be in a home of some sort, trying to be rehabilitated. Women who've been abused, who ran, they've and they're now, in another situation where they don't have, the clothing, they don't have, all the different resources that they had to leave behind. And so I started with that in mind, that concept in mind, and said, okay, how can I use this as a tool? So I have to start somewhere and build to that end goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's I think beautiful. It's very clear in all things that you're doing that starting with the end in mind is so important, and having that everything tie into that purpose and that vision. So are those your innate leadership skills, or what are some of the skills that you've employed in this business?
I think anytime you start building, number one, anything, like especially when it's a huge vision where it has nothing to do with you and it's about bringing forth changes and creating a better world, I think you're going to find struggles. And so with struggle, there's always growth. No matter how much you try to fight it, there will be opportunities to grow through hardships, through being stretched. And so for me, it's been one of those things I could say, let's see, some of the things that I've developed over time is resourcefulness, because I started 2015 with $250,
wow.
And so I've had to learn. And one of the concepts that I told myself is, Nova, never go into debt, don't take out loans, don't go into debt. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to use what you have and flip it and grow it. And so that way, by the time you get to where you are, you will have an appreciation, because it didn't come free. It never came easy. It came and it grew, and because of, the hard work that you're putting forth. And so I would say resourcefulness, that's one. I would say persistence, and I would say not giving up, perseverance over the past 5 years, because it has not been easy, and it has not been a place where you are ran over by support, yes, you have support systems and people that support you at different times, but it has not been, that place has been some dark nights and tears and being alone, you know, building things where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make this. And then it works out. You're like, oh, I made it, you know? So yeah.
It makes the end so much more powerful or rewarding when you do get to that place. But you're right. I mean, any kind of business that anybody's building, it is about being perseverant in that process and about being resourceful. And the fact that you've built it with your own two hands from $250 to be where you are today with the line out there based on your passion, your purpose is such an incredible feat throughout. And so let's get into some tips. Are you cool with that? Can we get into some fashion tips here? Because I'd love to hear some. How do you choose the outfit of the day?
Well, number one, I start off by thinking about where am I going? Who are the people I'm interacting with? And then also, what is my mood? And so I remember one day, it was like a rainy day. And I was like, you know what? The rain sometimes, it's like it brings people this sorrowful mood. Everybody's sleepy. So I'm going to wear the brightest yellow skirt. And I did, you know, I'm bringing sunshine on this rainy day, you know. So I think about what's the picture I'm trying to give to those who I'll interact with, and that's how I build from there. And how does this clothing make me feel? Because it's so interesting. Sometimes you could wear, like I could wear this shirt right now, but then next week I'm like, I can't stand this shirt because it's just. It's just, it just doesn't flow with the message or what I'm trying to, I guess, like, step out into the world as. Maybe I don't want to be a flower girl, you know?
No, absolutely. And I think that most people are passive, if it's fair to say. I know that I can be passive in choosing clothing, just putting something on, thinking less about the event, unless it's a special event, i.e. I'm heading to a wedding or heading to a special educational session leading or something. I won't put thought into what that message is that's out there. And so it's a really interesting approach in choosing some of our clothing because it does impact regardless of whether we put the thought in.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember I think I was 19 at the time, right? And this is where I started developing the concept of, okay, there's a psychology in how you show up, and no matter what, you paint a picture to those around you. So I was on the train in New York City, and I remember seeing this pregnant lady, right? Her hair was slicked back nicely. She had on like some bright red lipstick. Her outfit wasn't too like flamboyant or flashy, but just how she just looked beautiful. She radiated, and just how she had her hair combed. I was like, wow, it's a beautiful pregnant person who's actually put effort into, you know, brushing the hair back. And she was on the train just smiling, you know? And so I never had a conversation with her, but from looking at her, it just imprint on me where I was like, you know what? One day when I'm pregnant, I'm gonna look like that one day, you know? And so from that, you realize sometimes you don't even know that even in the days where, you know, you're like, oh, you know, it doesn't matter, that people do watch. And sometimes you can even inspire people by how you do show up and carry yourself. So, yeah.
I think that I love that story of the woman. And you remember her however many years later, and she has no idea the impact that she had on you. I also think sometimes about the message I must be giving out when I think a little less about my clothing. I was walking the other day, and I walk in the mornings, early morning, and a friend called me when I was on the walk, and there was a loud truck that went by, and I was just like, yeah, just big guy, big truck, whatever. And they go, oh, are you sure they weren't revving their engine at you? And I'm like, oh, no. I have gray sweats on and a Leonard Skinner like tank, like why, you know what those tank tops are or whatever. That is not the message that, well, then again, maybe a guy in a truck. I don't know, who knows. But that's certainly not the message I would want somebody walking away going, yep, I'm going to judge her by these gray sweatpants and this Leonard Skinner terrible shirt. So it's funny how those moments are of that. You talked about being a wife or being at home and those things. And there's times to be on and there's times to not be, right? You know, sometimes when I leave for the hot box or leave for things, my kids are like, whoa, Like, look at you, because they don't get to see me in, my hair brushed very, very often. So making conscious decisions in that way can be really powerful. Can you share a funny story with us?
I'm trying to think of a funny story. What is a funny story? Like, in what category of humor?
Well, if you're asking how dark the humor should be, I mean, that's, well, I'm always going to choose darkest, right? But no, I mean, any story that you want to share. I mean, you did share the story that the pregnant woman, that our mutual friend Torian Scott was on the at the show, and he told a very terrible story that I to this day will never forget, because he was pulling my leg based on his little jokester story. So we can let it go. Any other fashion tips for anybody listening? An easy fashion tip?
One good fashion tip is that you don't have to buy expensive all the time. Or you don't really have to buy expensive. You could use the money that you have, and you can bargain shop, and you can. But the thing with me, when I would shop, or when I like to shop, or a lot of times I go looking for pieces that speak to me. And so sometimes it could be a blouse that is $10, but you look for how the stitching is done. You look for how, whether it's simple or the detail, the kind of fabric, and you can actually literally wear a piece or wear an outfit like that's maybe $25 for the full look, and pull it off based off of the way that the outfit was designed, the detail in the stitch, and all those different things. Because sometimes I'm in like a $20 outfit, and people think that, okay, this girl is wearing expensive, high end in her day in and day out, but it's like a $10 blouse, and it's a $10 pair of pants, but it's how you piece it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then sometimes explore color, explore color.
Was that directed at me? I feel like that was directed at me.
I have a few friends who they wear a lot of black, so it's not just you. I know a lot of people wear a lot of black because it's easy, and with black also, it just black looks cool, And so sometimes some people, not everybody, they're not as confident to wear like a bright red dress because they're like, oh, it's going to draw attention to me. So let me tone it down. I'm trying to just coast through. So sometimes I think it's really good to add color to your wardrobe. It is so beautiful, and matching your tone, because our skin tone, sometimes our skin tone, there's certain colors that cause our skin tone to pop and make our skin glow. And so we look more vibrant, so that's what I think, So
I love it. And if somebody wanted to check out your line or get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Okay, they could head over to www.bcnovamarie.com. And so you could check out, I have a few pieces on there currently. And you can also email us. There's on the website, there's a button that says contact us. So if you want to send an email, you can also email in your questions about sizing, about, even if it's about like what color you think would go great with my skin tone, you can email us anytime.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today and sending lots of love.
Bye. Thank you.
Let's head out to our shout out.
Bueno, mi nombre es Giovanni. Aquí estamos en el Callejón de Hammer. Estamos representando a Brandi, a Hot Box.
Thank you so much to Nova for being a part of the Hot Box today. And thank you to my friend Pedro from Cuba for shouting out and sending us a shout out all the way from his country. Thank you very much for that. So when dressing with purpose, what are the things that we need to do? Here's your kick-ass. Number 1, wear comfortable shoes. I've said this before, and of course I mean it metaphorically in the fact of make sure you're comfortable and confident in the things that you are wearing. It's important to do that. And there's no better way to make us uncomfortable than to have a terrible pair of shoes on. So making sure that you're wearing things that you feel good in. Number 2 is see past the mirror. I loved when Nova shared stories of thinking with the end in mind, what it is that I want to portray, what it is that I want to be giving across. And that really leads us into number 3, and that's dressing your soul. Know what your purpose is, know what your passion is, know what your brand is, and how you want to express yourself. After all, it is art form that does allow for that additional self-expression. That's your top 3. Kick ass. Thank you again to Nova and all of you for being a part of the Hot Box. If you want to get her information or just reach out to us, head on out to thestrategichotbox.com or hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere at Strategic Hot Box or at Brandi Love. Talk to you soon. Get out there and kick some ass.